Hi, my name's Joe from GWS Roofing. Welcome to Roofing IQ. Today's Roofing 101 topic is how to choose a roofer. Choosing a roofer is one of the biggest decisions you'll make as a homeowner, and unfortunately, it's also one of the easiest to get wrong. Roofs are expensive, they're technical, and if they fail, the consequences aren't small. So rather than giving you a checklist of tips, I want to explain how to think clearly when choosing anyone to work on your roof. So you start with the type of job you're doing. The first thing to consider is the complexity of the project. If you're dealing with a fairly straightforward roof, say a standard terrace up and over, there isn't usually a huge amount left open to interpretation in terms of the overall scope. The shape is known, the covering is known, the detailing is largely conventional. That said, it still needs to be done properly. Correct materials, correct ventilation, correct insulation, upgrades where required, and workmanship to the appropriate standard. It's just the core belief itself is relatively clear. But once you move into something more nuanced, if your roof consists of different types, for example, if there are structural alterations or if the roof involves a design change, that's very different. In those cases, it's often worth involving a surveyor or an architect to produce some drawings and a specification. Why? Because then you can take that same information to multiple contractors and say, price this. That way, you know you're comparing apples with apples. If you don't do that, you may end up with 3 different contractors all pricing slightly different interpretations of what should be done. And suddenly, the quotes aren't directly comparable. If this is the first time you have had to replace a roof, it can be difficult to know who to trust. Trade body membership can be a good place to start. For example, the National Federation of Roofing Contractors, or the NFRC, vets its members across quality, insurance, financial stability, and compliance. We've got a separate video explaining that in more detail if you want to know more. It doesn't mean, however, that non-members are automatically poor contractors. There are good roofers outside those schemes. If you're filtering from a large field, it's a sensible starting point. There are also consumer vetting platforms like Which Trusted Traders, which we found to have a reasonably thorough assessment process. And of course, recommendations from friends, family, or local WhatsApp groups can be useful too, especially if you can physically go and see the work that's been done. Just remember, not all vetting schemes are created equal. Some are far more robust than others. Once you receive the quotes, a clearly written specification is important. The quote should set out exactly what's included, materials, insulation, ventilation, detailing, so there's no grey area later. However, do try and suss out if anything feels too generic. Vague quotes often lead to surprise costs, and surprises in roofing are rarely small. If something isn't written down, don't just assume it's included, and be sure to ask for a quick chat to run over the works prior to going ahead. Be realistic about timing. There's currently a national shortage of skilled trades in the UK, and roofing is no exception. Good contractors are often busy. So if someone can start next week on a full re-roof with no notice, it's worth pausing and asking why. That doesn't mean they're automatically unsuitable, but availability alone shouldn't be the deciding factor. There's also a huge difference between emergency work and full roof replacements. If your roof is leaking, you may need someone quickly to make it safe and buy you time. But the contractor who gets you out of trouble isn't always the same contractor you want carrying out a full roof replacement. A full replacement is a significant investment and deserves proper due diligence. It's very easy to be reassured by a 10 or even a 20-year warranty. But the real question is, do you believe the company will still be around to honour it? That comes down to how they operate, how structured they seem, how they communicate, and quite frankly, your gut instinct. If a contractor is operating under the competent person scheme, qualifying works will typically include an insurance-backed warranty. That means even if the contractor ceases to exist during the guarantee period, there's an additional layer of protection for you in place. That's very different from a guarantee that only exists as long as the company does. So in closing, it won't be a huge surprise to know that finding a roofer shouldn't be solely about finding the cheapest quote. If it is, then we politely suggest that there needs to be a change of perspective from fixing the problem to making an investment. The more complex the job, the more important it is to remove ambiguity, compare like for like, and choose someone you genuinely trust. Although sometimes roofing issues are urgent, If you are able to approach it in a methodical way, you dramatically reduce the chances of making a costly mistake. If you found this helpful, we've got more Roofing 101 videos on the channel. Drop a comment below, and if there's anything else you'd like us to discuss next time, we'll do so. Thank you for watching.